Hey everyone, welcome back. So we are now on chapter 11, but before we dive in to chapter 11, I would love to go over the vocabulary with you. I think it's always important to know what type of words we're going to be looking at so we can remember them as we go through our chapter. So I'm on page 482, which is the vocabulary page of chapter 11. And we have a box, and inside that first box it says fraction, a number that represents part of a whole. So if you remember, a fraction is just part of a number, or when we're talking about shapes, it's what represents part of that whole shape, that whole number. Okay? And underneath that, we have a circle, and 1/3 of the circle is shaded in, and we need to give that a word or a name. When we are talking about one part of the fraction, just one, okay? So our numerator is always 1, okay? That is the unit fraction. So if you remember when we were adding on to our number lines, every time we would say if I had 1/3 and I want to add on a unit fraction, I would be adding on another third to equal 2/3, and so forth, okay? So when we're talking about one portion of the fraction, just one, it's the unit fraction, okay? The second box below that, if you count up your rectangle, you have a whole, or 6/6. So you have your denominator is 6 because there are 6 equal parts. 2/6 is the fraction, so the review word there is sixths. That's trying to get you used to saying thirds, halves, fourths, tenths, twelfths, so on and so forth, okay? And the next one, you have another circle that is divided into 8 equal shares. Okay, so our denominator is 8. 6 of those 8 are shaded in, so that name or that word that goes there is eighths. Again, this is just practice for you saying 2/3, 2/4, fifths, sixths, sevenths, eighths. So you can just get used to that vocabulary because it's different than everything we've done so far. So then on 482, we have define it. So it says use your vocabulary cards to complete the definitions. Well, if you turn the page, you've got your vocabulary cards, and hopefully you still have your vocabulary cards from chapter 10, which is only going to help you with chapter 11, okay? So when you pull those out, you should be able to answer these questions. Number 1 is equivalent. So the word equivalent means having the same value. They're the same value, okay? So like 1 can be equal to 3/3. Those are equivalent. Equivalent fractions are 2 or more fractions that name the same part of a whole. Okay, so those would be equivalent fractions, okay? And we will dive into more explanation and definitions on those, okay? So if you look at your cards, all right, and I'm looking at this card right there, the green one, where it says 2 or more fractions that name the same part of a whole. So it gives you a whole that is split into 3 equal shares, and 2 of those 3 are shaded in, so your fraction is 2/3, and that is equal to the second rectangle that is filled in, where there are 6 equal shares, and 4 of those 6 are shaded in. So 2 fractions that name the same part of the whole. Okay, because if you place those 2 right on top of each other, the same amount would be shaded in. All right, so make sure you freshen up on your vocabulary before you dive into chapter 11, and then check out the next video for 11.1.